Welcome to Captain Rook's Reading Corner, back by popular demand. Today we'll be reading Treasure Island. So get you a good mug of tea or cocoa or something ready and have a seat. And we'll go chapter by chapter, but this is an abbreviated version. If you want to read the full version, I encourage it. Chapter 1. The Old Sea Dog. That's not me. The squire and the doctor have asked me to write all I remember of Treasure Island, from the beginning to the end. I am to put everything, except where the island is located, for there is still treasure there, not yet found. I will go back to the beginning, to the time when my father owned the Admiral Benbow Inn. It was then that the brown old seaman with the scar across his cheek came to stay with us. I remember him as if it were yesterday. He came through the inn door with a large sea chest on a cart. He was a tall, strong, heavy man, with nut-brown skin. He had a greasy black pigtail that hung down onto his dirty blue coat. His hands were ragged with black, broken nails, and across his right cheek ran a saber-cut scar, a dirty, fierce white. I remember him looking around the coastline and whistling to himself. Then he sang out in a high, cracked voice an old sea song. 15 men on a dead man's chest, yo-ho-ho, and a bottle of rum. There'll be a picture of him here. He stared out at the cliffs and at our signboard. This is a handy cove, he said to my father, a good place for an inn. Do you have much business, mate? No, not much company, replied my father, which is a shame. Well then, he said, this is the place for me. I'm a plain man. Rum and bacon and eggs is all I want, and that room up top to watch for ships. You can just call me Captain, and you'll be wanting these. He threw down 3 or 4 gold pieces on the table. Tell me when I owe you more. He spoke like a man who was in charge. His clothes were in bad shape, and he used rude language. Yet he did not seem like a regular sailor. He seemed more like a commander that was used to being obeyed and would punish swiftly. He was a very silent man. All day he walked around the cove or out on the cliffs with a brass telescope. All evening he sat in a corner of the parlor next to the fire and drank strong rum and water. Mostly he would not speak, even when we spoke to him. He would just give mean looks and blow through his nose like a foghorn when anyone was around. Folks that stayed at the inn soon learned to leave him alone. Every day, when he came back from his walk, he would ask if any of us had seen any seafaring men. At first we thought he was just looking for some company and news of the sea. But when sailors did come to stay at the Admiral Benbow, he would peek through the curtain door before he would enter the parlor, and was always as quiet as a mouse around them. By then we had realized that he was indeed trying to avoid them. There's a picture of him out on the cliffs with his telescope. One day he took me aside. He promised me a silver coin every month if I would only keep a secret. I was to watch and let him know if a seafaring man with only 1 leg appeared. Often, when I asked him for my silver coin each month, he would only blow through his nose at me and stare me down. Before the week was out, however, he would pay me, and order me again to look out for the seafaring man with 1 leg. You can just imagine how that 1-legged man haunted my dreams. On stormy nights, when the wind shook the house and the surf roared up the cliffs, I would picture that 1-legged man. First, the leg would be cut off at the knee, then at the hip. Then he was like a monster that only had the 1 leg, but in the middle of his body. To see him leap and run and chase me over hedges and creeks was the worst of nightmares. There's a picture of it. I hope it didn't give you nightmares. I was terrified of this one-legged man, but everyone else at the inn was afraid of the captain himself. He told dreadful stories about hanging and walking the plank, and storms at sea, and wild deeds in places on the waters of the Spanish Main. If he thought someone was not listening, he would slap his hand on the table for silence. His actions and his language shocked our guests. Many a time he would sit with his rum and sing his wicked, wild sea songs. Then he would call for a round of drinks, and force everyone in the room to listen to his stories or join him in a chorus. Our poor guests would tremble and join in for dear life. My father was always saying the inn would be ruined, for people would soon stop coming by. But I believe that our guests rather liked him. This was fine excitement in our quiet country life. Some of the younger men called him a true sea dog and a real old salt. In one way, however, he did ruin us. He stayed so many months that he owed us money, and my father was too afraid to ask him for it. He lived in terror of the captain. I'm sure this is what made my father sick and led to his early, unhappy death. Only one time did someone cross the captain. My father was very ill, and Dr. Livesey came one evening to attend him. Before he left, he waited in the parlour for his horse to be brought around. How different the neat, bright doctor looked from that filthy, heavy, blurry-eyed sea dog. Suddenly the captain began to pipe up his song. 15 men on the dead man's chest, yo-ho-ho, and a bottle of rum. Dr. Livesey did not seem impressed with this drunk, dirty singer. He kept talking to Taylor, the gardener. The captain slapped his hand on the table for silence. The voices stopped at once. All but Dr. Livesey's. He went right on speaking, clear and friendly. The captain glared at him, slapped his hand again, and glared still harder. Finally he roared, "Silence there, matey!" That'll be Captain Livesey there with the pipe. "You're speaking to me, sir," said the doctor. "Aye, matey." "Well, then, I have only one thing to say to you, sir," replied the doctor. "If you keep on drinking rum, you will have a stroke, and the world will be rid of its very dirty scoundrel." The captain sprang to his feet. He pulled out and opened a sailor's clasp knife. Dr. Livesey did not budge. He said very calmly, "Put that knife in your pocket this instant. If you do not, I promise upon my honor, you shall hang." The two men had a battle of looks, but the captain soon knuckled under. He put his weapon away and sat down, grumbling like a beaten dog. "Now, sir," said the doctor, "I'm not just a doctor. I'm a county officer. If I catch one word against you, I'll have you hunted down and forced out of this country." Soon after, the horse arrived, and Dr. Livesey rode away. The captain held his peace that evening, and for many evenings to come. I'll be reading the second chapter real soon to you, but that's all there is for now. I bid you good evening.